Okay, a very good evening, one and all, and welcome to the Buddhist Mahavihara's Facebook live page. And this evening, we are actually continuing the series of questions that were raised over the last couple of months. We are at Ask the Teachers Anything 3.0, which is actually the third segment of this session called Ask the Teachers. And this evening, we have two Bantes with us. One of the Bantes has been with us throughout the last two sessions. If you remember, we had Bante Sankitcha and Bante Jinananda, who had helped us out in the last two the last two sessions. But Bante Sankitcha has now returned back to the United States from Sri Lanka, and he's midway in his travels and he won't be able to join us. But we have found a suitable replacement for him in Bante Kusala. I would now like to invite the two Bantes to join us. Good morning, Bantes. I know it's early morning for you in America and Canada.
Good evening.
Good evening to you.
Okay, let me quickly read the profiles and then I will start the ball rolling with the questions. Bante N. Jinananda is a Sri Lankan Buddhist monk who is currently the chief incumbent monk of the Hilda Jayawardena Ramaya Buddhist Monastery and Meditation Center based in Ottawa, Canada. Bante has a postgraduate diploma in Buddhist studies from the University of Kelaniya, Sri Lanka, a Bachelor of Education degree from the University of Colombo, and a Masters of Arts from the Wilfrid Laurier University in Canada. Bante Jinananda is also the Director and Vice President of the Buddhist Congress of Canada, and Venerable has conducted Samantha and Vipassana meditation retreats and given Dhamma sermons in various parts of the world, including Malaysia and in Buddhist Mahavihara, and he's also provided counseling and spiritual guidance to the various Buddhist communities in Canada. Profile of Bante Kusala. Bante Kusala was born in Sri Lanka in 1987. He entered monastic life at the age of 16 at the Gangagiri Vihara in South Sri Lanka, where in 2007 he received his higher ordination or Upasampada. He continued to pursue his undergraduate and graduate studies at the University of Peradeniya in Sri Lanka. He then moved to Italy to study cognitive science and engage in mindfulness-based research at the University of Trento in Italy. In 2014, he moved to Cambridge, Massachusetts to pursue a Master's of Divinity degree from Harvard University as a Robert H. N. Ho Family Foundation Scholar. Bante Kusala has also served as a translator for Bante Vimala Ramzi, Sister Kema, Ajahn Brahmanso, and also Ajahn Brahmali. He has lectured and taught internationally and served as a resident chaplain at the Brigham and Women's Hospital, the second largest teaching hospital of the Harvard Medical School, and at the Dana Faber Cancer Institute from 2017 to 2018. In 2018, he was invited to the Great Lakes Buddhist Vihara outside Detroit, Michigan to continue his Dhamma service and volunteers in hospitals in the area as a spiritual care provider. Whilst at the Great Lakes Buddhist Vihara, he is also working on his second year PhD in Pali from the Sri Jayawardhanapura University in Sri Lanka. So now we will. Sorry, Bhante, I had to accidentally press the wrong button and I think I removed you. But we will now start the questions and answer session. We will start with Bhante Kusala, who will take on the first question, which is I will post that question on the screen, and then on we will move alternate between the two monks, right?
So I'm seeing the first question on the screen, but there was more to it as I saw the questionnaire earlier. I'm still struggling with the concept of Devas, Nagas, different world systems, past life and future life. Can you try to enlighten me on these? So this is a question by Bro Teo Lee Yong. And with this question came also a little bit of understanding. This person mentioned that he can understand the Eightfold Path, the Four Noble Truths, etc. And but he's struggling to understand Devas, Nagas, different world systems. So before I answer this question, let me also update you about your teacher, Bhante Sankicha. He came safely. He's resting right now. Yesterday, we picked him up from the airport and brought him to the Vihara. So he's right here in the Great Lakes Buddhist Vihara, and he's doing quite very well. I'm sure you will be super happy to know that he's back in the United States and he's safe and sound. So with that, I think these questions about many things that include the things that you don't see, like the Devas and Nagas and past lives, all these things are questions that many people have, that include monks as well. When you don't see something, we tend to question it. It's like electricity, we don't see it, but we do know that it exists. So we try to be careful in handling cables and wires. But in terms of Devas, Nagas, so what is Deva? Deva is a divine being, a deity. Naga is a serpent-like being. All these beings have psychic abilities, superhuman abilities, the abilities that ordinary human beings don't have. A Naga particularly can be disguised as a human being, and if we find examples from the Pitakas, we find a story in Mahavaggapali that one of the Naga beings, a serpent-like beings, was fed up, was sick of his status as a Naga, and he wanted to end his staying as a Naga. What he did was he came disguised as a human being, completely unrecognizable. So he came incognito, and he requested a monastic teacher to ordain him and give him a full ordination, upasampada. And at one point when he was sleeping, the other monk was away, and he forgot his status and immediately went back to being a Naga, a serpent-like being. And he filled the room. This scared away his monastic teacher, the monk who was living with him. And then the question, then he had to reveal his true nature, and this case was brought to the Buddha. And then the Buddha happened to tell him that he laid the rule that you are not allowed to ordain non-human beings. And having laid that rule for that particular Naga monk, the Buddha said, you can't just come and disguise and become a monk and end your suffering in that state. You will have to practice uposatha for 8 days in a row, and a number of things that the Buddha recommended. So from stories like that, we find the existence of Nagas. And we also have stories of Devas, like in Atanatya Sutra and many other sutras, including the Mangala Sutra. You find the stories of Devas. But again, let me kind of come back to your question here. When we say we understand the Eightfold Path, the first limb of the Eightfold Path is right view. In the teachings of the Buddha, we find that accepting this world and the world after, accepting the existence of Devas, accepting karma, all these things also fall into the right view part. So when we say that we understand the Eightfold Path, right view is very much a very important part of it. In right view, we come to understand the Four Noble Truths. But also the Buddha says that denying the existence of other worlds and believing that only this world is the one that exists is wrong view. This the Buddha said in Apannaka Sutta. So Apannaka Sutta teaches us that with correct understanding, first with saddha, the faith towards the teachings of the Buddha, and the faith towards the teachings alone, and faith towards the venerable monks, you can first accept that these systems exist. But through developing the divine eye, you will be able to recollect your past lives and also understand that there will be a future gati, future going, a place where you will go after your death. And that you will also be able to, perhaps with the divine eye, communicate with the beings that you otherwise cannot communicate. So the teachings, if you really study the teachings, they encourage you to develop the superhuman states where you will have the ability to test your faith. And so until then, to have a little faith in what you have learned is good enough. I guess that answers your question.
Thank you, Bante, for answering the first question. I hope a brother who asked that question is satisfied with the answer by Bante Kusala. We'll move on to the second question, and we'll have Bante Janananda to answer this question.
Kusala, for having this wonderful Dhamma session. So my question is, why don't people want to see the true nature of things or want to know its deeper meaning? Brother Eric Lim asked this question. So it's interesting to see how people understand Buddhism and apply them with this question. I think many people ask these questions from me in a private session. So I think the direct answer is because people have so much negative energies in their mind. That's why they do not want to see the true nature of everything. If I answer these questions from the discourses, I can see that the very reason for not seeing the truth is because of layers of craving, layers of defilement. If I come to the first layer, that disturb us not, seeing the truth as they are, is the five hindrances. The five hindrances are kama chanda, sensual pleasures, vyapada, ill will, and uddacha kukucha, Tinamidda, and that is sleepiness and drowsiness of the mind. It's called dislikeness to do kusala and good things, and uddacha kukucha, restlessness and worry, and the final one is doubt, which is called skeptical doubt, vichikicha. So this is the first layer of defilement that hinders us to developing wisdom, which is the way we see we see the truth as they are. So whether people like the idea of seeing the truth or not, if they have these layers of defilement, they are unable to see the truth. That's why Buddha has asked us to meditate on different subjects just to let go of these unwholesomeness in our mind. The Pali word for this is very nice. It's called Panyaya Dubbali Karane Dhamme, the way or we see the truth as it is the way of developing wisdom. But this set of 5 defilements cut off the path for wisdom. Therefore, it is called Panyaya Dubbalikarane Dhamme, the defilement that weakens wisdom. So we can come to the other layers of defilement, such as 10 Sangyojana, 10s, and then asavas, then underlying tendencies of our mind. These are the layers of defilement, and we come to a summarized version of all these defilement as lobha, dosa, moha, greed, hatred, and ignorance. So these are the very reason we can put forward for why people do not see the true nature of things. But at the same time, we can see that there are methods. Buddha asks us to apply to cut our way through and see the things as they are. Starting from Sila, we can practice different training principles, and then with the discipline we get through all these measures, we can gain Samadhi, what we call jhanas, and then by doing all these things, we can eliminate our mind with wisdom. So we can see that there are many ways Buddha asks us to do just to clear our mind and develop wisdom in order to see things as they are. In one way, I can say that the negativities, close our path for wisdom. At the same time, there is an ability for each and everyone to dispel that darkness of ignorance and see the truth. In many discourses, Buddha has pointed out this one, but I remember now one of those discourses that Buddha asks us to Attadipa Viharata and so on. Buddha asks us to light up the wisdom as a metaphorically as a candle, and then the darkness of around you, especially in your mind, will go away. So friends, especially brother Eric, we have to strive so hard to clear our path for wisdom, and wisdom is gaining somewhere when we go and practice the Dhamma, but it is the ability to see things as they are, and it is very internal quality in our mind, and it is the faculty of our mind. And when we develop these faculties, especially wisdom, with the support of other qualities, we can see things as they are. The short answer is because of the layers of craving that people intentionally or unintentionally develop, they cannot see the true nature of everything. But a detailed answer is that, yeah, we develop craving, defilement, layers by layers with the way we live. But the silver line of this is that we can destroy these craving, defilement, and all kind of negativities by way of applying Sila, Samadhi, and Panya. So as Vante Kusala mentioned, that the first limb of the Noble Eightfold Path, Samadhi, the right view, is the key elements of the Dhamma for us to destroy the ignorance and find our way to wisdom. I think answer is given to this question. So in a simple way, we'll see whether we need any more answer for this question later on. Thank you. The next question is Maladana part of Buddhist practice? Do we have to do the Maladana after a relative passes away, or is it a tradition? Thank you, Sister Nalyne Janis, for this question. Some people are still in confusion with regard to relatives who passed away and their destiny. the short answer is that this Maladana practice is not a real Buddhist practice. But I mean, when I say that this is not a real Buddhist practice, I mean that this is not in the Tripitaka, but it becomes a tradition of Buddhist culture later on, when the Buddhism was planted in Sri Lanka and other countries in South Asia, Southeast Asia, as a way of treating disease. So if we trace to the history of Buddhist teaching with regard to this practice, we can see that King Bimbisara saw a dream, and in that he saw some of his relatives appeared in front of him, and then Buddha mean that they are his relatives and they need merits. Then, with the advice of the Buddha, the king Bimbisara, performed dana and transfer merits to those relatives for many lifetime before, and then they became happy and overcame the suffering. So from that incident, Buddhists throughout centuries practice giving dana and do other meritorious deeds to transfer merits to departed relatives. But I can say that differences of this practice from Sri Lanka to Malaysia to other countries and even in the Western world. So if the Maladana is done just to transfer merits to departed relatives, that would be accepted. But at the same time, we need to keep in mind that each and every relatives who passed away may not be reborning in that particular ghost realm where they could see us and get our help. So there are chances of reborning in divine world and human world, and also animal kingdom, asura, and in hell. So we do not know where our relatives get rebirth. Therefore, advices are coming all the way that we should practice dana after 3 days of the dead, and also 7 days, 3 months, and after 1 year, and annually people give dana. So my understanding is that this is a tradition that develops way after Buddha's parinirvana, and it could be meaningful if we understand what we exactly do. My understanding is that we should do dana just to accumulate merits for ourselves, and then we are able to share these merits with any relatives who passed away. The first thing is to perform the dana according to the Buddha's teaching. In many discourses, Buddha uttered giving dana is completing the kammastakata sammaditi. It means that mundane sammaditi, right view, is being practiced along with the other noble qualities while we give. So it is a totally individual training to practice not only sila but samadhi and panya aggregate as well. So the doer of the dana is receiving the 100% benefits from it. As a result, you are qualified and you are full with merits to be able to give somebody else. So if you give maladana or whatever dana in the name of relatives who passed away, you have to understand what you are doing, and as a result, may these blessings be with my relatives or whatever it is. I can relate to a story of Venerable Sariputta as well. So he came across a preta, a ghost, and when he searched how this happened, he came to know that this preta was a mother of Venerable Sariputta many lifetime ago. So then Venerable Sariputta was the second only to the Buddha with wisdom, samadhi, and many other qualities. He had the opportunity to meditate and give enough merits for the previous mother, who is now a preta. But what he did was going on Pindapata and collected alms enough to share with the other monks. Actually, he gave a dana to other monks, and at the end, he transfers those meritorious powers to the dead, the mother, and tried his best to make the previous mother happy and peaceful. We have other questions with regard whether arhants can accumulate merits and share them. There may be other questions, but just stick to the story that even when Sariputta being an arhat, did a dana to support the previous mother. So my conclusion for this answer is that this is a tradition and it cannot be found in basic teaching, but tradition would be good if we make it meaningful with the Buddha's teaching. I think I have answered. So if you have any more follow-up questions, please ask. I will try my best to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhante, for answering those two questions. I think it was aptly done. We'll now move on to Bhante Kusala to answer the next two questions.
Thank you, Bhante Jinananda. That was a wonderful answer. I think some of it can be used for this question, which is about how do we differentiate the Roopavachara Dyanas and Aroopavachara Dyanas. This is a question by Eranga Edirisinghe from Sri Lanka. So this is some technical stuff. First of all, so be prepared for some of the technical jargon here. But also, I will try to make it very simple and understandable for you. So not to worry there. And so Roopavachara and Aroopavachara Dyanas is part of earliest teachings, and it has been in existence ever since. And so the simplest translations of these terms is form and formless dhyānas. So if you look at your body, this is the form, and the first four jhanas are experienced within this body. You may not necessarily feel the body very much in the fourth jhana or the third jhana, but our nervous system generates a kind of happiness that you are aware of within these four jhanas, the first four jhanas. But if you go beyond the other four that comes after, they are called Arupa Janas, formless jhanas, because they are experienced beyond this body's experience, sort of mental experiences, experienced without the physical body's involvement. Because after the fourth jhana, you are able to go beyond the form, beyond the body, where you experience infinite space. That is the first Arupa jhana. Then infinite nothingness. Infinite consciousness, that is the second one. So infinite space, infinite consciousness, and nothingness, neither perception nor non-perception. These four are the Arupa jhanas, so formless jhanas. So to experience infinite space, you have to go beyond the fourth jhana. The last four are not basically called jhanas sometimes, but they are also, traditionally accepted as advancements of jhanas. They are called ayatanas, akasananchayatana, right? Vinyananchayatana, akinchanyayatana, and nevasanyanaasanyayatana. So the first four, if you look at the very first one, Viviccheva kamehi, viviccha akusalehi dhammehi. The first 4 jhanas, the form jhanas, rupa jhanas. Viviccheva kamehi, viviccha akusalehi dhammehi. So viviccheva kamehi here refers to having withdrawn from sensual pleasures, which means, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, physical sensations, and thinking bring us sensual pleasures. So now you abandon these, having abandoned sensual pleasures. And then you come to viviccha akusalehi dhammehi, unwholesome states. You abandon the unwholesome states. This include hindrances and your attachment, covetousness towards anything that brings you down towards the sensual pleasures. And with savitakka savichara, with thinking and examining thoughts, there will be slight thinking and examining thoughts. Vivekajang piti sukhang. So highlight here is vivekajang. All you did previously was gaining some seclusion. Vivekajang. This piti and sukha, this happiness and joy and happiness, this is founded, this is born in vivek. This is born in seclusion. This kind of seclusion that is gained from attaining the first jhana comes because you have now abandoned your involvement with the 6 sense doors. They don't stimulate any of your karmas, any of your desires, so that there is happiness that is born of this kind of seclusion. Not just leaving the societal, social involvements, but also within your own body, you move away, you abandon your involvement with these 6 sense faculties. There you gain so much freedom, and that kind of seclusion brings you a bodily, meaning form related, body related joy and happiness. And then the second jhana has something, the highlight there is samadhi jang piti sukham. There is happiness and happiness and joy born of samadhi, that is born of tranquility, because previously you cultivated some tranquility, and from there is happiness and joy born. And you move to the third jhana, where you don't really feel any gross happiness or any gross joy, but rather you have some equanimity. So this equanimity is the foundation for the fourth jhana, that is sublime and pure. You have upekha sati parisuddhi, purity and awareness, mindful awareness with equanimity. This is very radiant, transparent state, which really has directed your awareness beyond the body. And these 4 levels is the foundation for the 4 immaterial states. Now you were materially, like physically involved previously. You were able to experience equanimity with awareness, but beyond that, now you are being able to differentiate the two as you are ready to enter, as you are ready to direct your mind towards immaterial levels, mind-only levels. In these levels, you experience infinite space. So you direct your mind infinitely to the space which is beyond your body's periphery. And when you are able to direct your mind to these levels, you are experiencing a malleable, like a clay-like state, where your mind, you are with clay. It's a piece of clay. You can make any kind of a doll, any image you like. So here you are able to direct your mind towards the infinite space first. With that determination, your focus now is the infinite space, so you are experiencing the infinite space infinitely. What you are experiencing is space only, on and on. And then you abandon the infinite space because you don't want to fall back to any of the previous ones. These are progressive. And you are now, because your understanding of Dhamma teaches that there is a state beyond that, so you direct your mind towards infinite consciousness. Because you are able to, with your wisdom, process that space is experienced through consciousness. So you now, abandon the awareness of space and you come to awareness of infinite consciousness. And beyond that is that you abandon also the awareness of both space and consciousness and remain in nothingness as a base, which is also infinitely experienced. You can stay in this space quite some time, quite a long time. And now, when you are ready for the fourth Aroopavachara, fourth formless realm, where you experience neither perception nor non-perception. So any awareness to space, consciousness, or nothingness, these are all perceptions. Now you go beyond. In going beyond, perception arises and you take all these experiences as perceptions, and now you try to attain a state beyond any perceptions. So you are experiencing neither perception nor non-perception, which is like a gateway to final cessation, nirodha. When your consciousness has nothing else to be conscious on, it ceases its experience. It experiences the nirodha. So consciousness has no footing and it disappears. What happens there is no way when consciousness of perceptions, feelings, and consciousness, when there is nothing to perceive, there's no way that feelings could arise. Pleasant feelings, painful feelings, neither painful nor pleasant feelings cannot arise when there is nothing to perceive. And because of that, there's no way some formations, some sankharas can arise. When sankharas cannot arise, there is no way consciousness can arise. Because of these movements, because of these progressions that are happening, eventually you are able to let go. You are able to go beyond. So you release your consciousness and it disappears, it vanishes, experienced in Nirodha. So I think I have explained the full path here. I explained the 4 jhanas, 4 material jhanas, and going beyond the material jhanas, you experience 4 immaterial jhanas, and going beyond the 4 immaterial jhanas, you experience a cessation. So I guess that answers your question, Eranga. If you have further questions, feel free to join the Q&A and ask for clarifications. Thank you very much for the question. So this is the second question. Reality to lay people is what we are experiencing in our daily lives. If this is not real, then what is it? So someone anonymous is asking this question. So we tend to use the word reality in our day-to-day life. Your highlight here is lay people understanding reality. Is this what we are experiencing? You are saying reality is what we are experiencing in our daily lives. So in reality, of course, so we have to experience live in the real world before we experience anything unreal. So eating, sleeping, and being able to communicate with others, and feeling pains, feeling happiness, feeling joy, connectedness, fear. So these are our realities as ordinary human beings. It doesn't have to be just lay people. As any ordinary human being, they experience reality that way. But then there is discussion about real reality, parama reality, absolute reality, that is nibbana. So this reality is not experienced as lay people or as ordinary human beings. So that kind of reality is what we pursue in our practice. We don't really experience nibbana as we eat, sleep, and all that, doing all ordinary activities, unless you have become enlightened or unless you are experiencing it at that state. So we need to differentiate the fact that we might sometimes be living in an illusion, not seeing the realities. How do we break this experience? In experiencing your body, you see it as a body first. But now you break it down to 4 basic elements. The 4 basic elements are your element of Patavi, the hardness, Apo, the liquid nature, Tejo, the heatness, and Vayu, the basic air. So these 4 elements is a little bit beyond your experience of the body. That is reality. Now you are able, with your wisdom of knowledge in Dhamma, you are breaking down this body to see what is the essence in it. Like, how do we go beyond just seeing a form here? You are breaking it down to see the reality. And now, take for example, another one, the Dhamma, understanding the Dhamma. When you see a form, you see it as a form. You see it as something that exists outside. You see a tree, and that tree is the tree that, your eye has presented to you. There too, you start seeing Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayu, earth element, liquid element, heat element, and the air element. That's the reality. That kind of reality is not so seen unless you are taught in Dhamma, unless you are a Suttava Arya Savako, a noble disciple who has heard the Dhamma. So, and also the seeing experience, the experience of seeing, you see it because there's a physical eye and there's a form outside, and you have consciousness. And meeting of 3 is contact. This is how the reality sort of, you are breaking things down in detail to kind of come closer to what is actually happening as a phenomena. And contact leads to some level beyond. Contact leads to feelings. Feelings leads to craving. Craving leads to clinging. Clinging leads to existence. And existence leads to all kinds of suffering. So there you understand the progressive nature of arising of suffering. That is where we come closer to real reality that is taught in Buddhism. Since I have taken so much time, I remain here, but this kind of reality is not experienced in day-to-day life unless you strive in path. Then you are able to come closer to real reality, something that is beyond our illusory nature to experience levels of Nibbana and final Nibbana towards the end of your practice. Thank you for the question. I trust I answered as much as the question in your ability to understand. as much as I can, and please come back if you have further questions.
Thank you, Bante. I think there was quite a deep concept that we need to take some time to comprehend. Thank you for taking time off to answer that two questions. I'd now like to invite Bante Jinananda. Bante, these will be your two questions that I will pose to you.
Yeah, thank you. The question is, as a Buddhist, how can I help or advise my friends who are suffering from depression and mental anxiety to overcome it? That is from Sister Angela Wong. It's a very interesting question because Buddhism must be able to use in day-to-day life, as many people need it to overcome suffering that occurs us in daily life. Yeah, the first thing I can say that from the Buddhist teaching is to be able to sustain ourselves on the Dhamma. If you find your friends or relatives or whoever have these problems, the first thing you need to do is to sustain yourself in the special qualities, like you must be compassionate and kind, and you have to be stick into some guideline in the Buddha's teaching, just not to show your emotions in front of these people who are in suffering. A lot of people try to console others who are in suffering by getting into the same nature. I have many experiences that some people try to console others by crying with the people who have issues. But my advice is that you better go to those people or meet those people with a strong mind and compassionate attitudes, and your words should not be leaning this side and that side, but you must compassionately stick to words, and they should be uttered very nicely, because through our expression, with our advice, at least they must be able to understand we are in happiness. So, for example, if you are in the mud, you cannot take somebody else in the mud out of it. You have to get out of it in order to drag him out from the mud. Uh, like that, we need to stay on our original ethical principles and keep our mind calm and cool, and try to show our inner peace towards them through words and action. This is the first one we need to uh, have in order to help somebody who is in suffering uh, due to depression and stress. Then the second quality I put forward is to help somebody being able to listen to those people. Whatever they have to say, we have to wait and listen to them. Then we slowly get into finding solutions. I remember a conversation between Venerable Ananda and uh, Brahmin, who came to him to ask about the reason why we say greed, hatred, and ignorance are wrong. The question was again, when Venerable Ananda was questioned why we say that greed, hatred, ignorance are wrong and we should overcome them. Then Venerable Ananda, find a ground to answer for these questions by asking cross questions. So Venerable Ananda did not give his own view or anything from the Dhamma directly, but he questions that person that, what do you think, my friend? Do you think that when somebody is greedy at you, do you like it? When somebody is angry with you, do you like it? When somebody is trying to fool you, do you like it? Then this person said that, no, I don't like to see anyone experience this, not necessarily to me. I do not want to see anyone in this suffering. So then Venerable Ananda questions further that when greed is existing in our mind, nothing could be expected only suffering, only frustration, and then it could lead the persons of in greed to anger, ill will, and then everything will be in a problematic situation because uh, because of the power of greed, hatred, and ignorance. Then this is how Venerable Ananda helped that person to solve his problem, and we can get these examples in this regard as well. We listen to the person and try our best to find solutions to his own problem by putting different analyses and try to boil down the problem and issues with them. So this is the second thing I can say that. And being a good friend, uh, showing your kalyana with the qualities is the third way I would say. In Singaloa, the Sutta, Buddha asks us to be a good friend of everyone. We have different names for us when as way we become friends to those people. Upakaraka mitto. It means that we become a helpmate. So in order to help somebody who is in depression and suffering, we show that we are here to help you. So let your friend or relative feel that. Then samana sukha dukkha. So let your friend or relative know that you think about that your friend, think about your relative. That way they find easy feeling to communicate with you. And attakai mito. So you have very good counseling method, and you know how to open up your mind for that particular person. And then finally anukampakumito, you have sympathies on that particular person. These are some of the attitudes you could have with you when you go to a person like that, and show the uh, genuine effort for you to help them. Apart from that, I can tell you many things like encourage the persons to understand the causes and conditions. If we stick to the Four Noble Truths and Paticca Samuppada, we can together sit and see the causes and conditions, how this problem came in, and teaching a method of alleviating that depression or suffering slowly, one by one, up step by step. So we can ask our friends to stay in tune with me and find solutions to those problems. So then one of the famous ways is that we can take their suffering, and we say by words that I take your suffering and I am with you, I stand with you. So that gives a lot of energy for the suffering party. So then introduced to Dhamma. In many occasions, we can see that people like them to take to temple. If you cannot help your friends or relative with the problem they face, one of the things you can do is to take a very experienced teacher, maybe a Buddhist monk, maybe a layperson who knows much about counseling and Buddha's way of taking suffering out. Then they will help you. That would be also one of the ways you can help your friends. And ask them to meditate every day, like not very rigorous meditation subject, but watch their breathing in every hour at least for a couple of minutes. Therefore, they train their mind to be away from suffering at least for 2-3 minutes, and try them ask them to practice loving kindness as a means to overcome suffering. There are long term measures, but for short term you can listen to them, you can talk to them, you can show how the Buddha and those people who like Patachara, Kusagotami, Sopaka, how they suffer, how they suffered a lot from their issues and came out of suffering. You can tell stories like that, and as I told you, uh, show your insight to them, compassion, kindness, and being able to help. So these are the things we can do to support our friends and relatives who have mental suffering. So I think I should go to the next questions. I think depending on the time, if I can read that. Yeah, that is why are the Buddhas always born in India? Why is India so special? Thank you for the questions, Remila Jayasinghe from KL. Um, yeah, I had these questions in my mind for many, many years because every Buddhas before the Gautama Buddha were born in India, and why I have these questions. Actually, we don't have a particular answer for this in the discourses, but we have answers from the tradition, Theravada tradition and literature, why this happened. Let me tell you that the world has been categorized into four according to literature works, that is Pubbhavideha, Aparagoyana, Pubbhavideha, Aparagoyana, Uttarakuru, and Jambudvipa. These are the four, categorization of the world according to the ancient uh, geography. Pubbhavideha, Jambudvipa, Aparagoyana, Uttarakuru. Pubbhavideha means the east of the globe, and Aparagoyana is the west, Uttarakuru is the north, and Jambudvipa is the area where India, Malaysia, Thailand, part of the Thailand, Burma, and Afghanistan, Pakistan, close to Greece and Sri Lanka, and down the globe. So this is the deviation of the globe into four according to the ancient categorization. So the Buddhas appeared according to that information is only in Jambudvipa, where this big area, not the India itself, but the whole subcontinent as well as surrounding area. The reason why the Buddhas appeared in this part of the world because the civilization started in this area. Indus Valley and the Iranian and Mesopotamia, all these Greeks and Silk Road close from the west to the east. So many things happened in this area in the past. Because of that, humans gathered in this area for living, for survival, with cultivation and fishing and cattle farming, and therefore the civilization started in this area. Buddha is a first human being, and later he, through enlightenment, crossed over the human nature and became the Tathagata or the Buddha. These are the two words he used to tell to a Brahmin and to a person that he is not the Buddha. Sorry, he is not a human being, but he is a Tathagata or the Buddha. So basically, the Buddha is a human being, and for the Buddha to appear in the world, uh, there should be humans. And when he look at the world, human world, as the deity from the Tusita heaven to be reborn in human world and attain enlightenment, he look at the five things, five conditions, five requisites. One of them is the area he should be born. So he saw that the Sakyan clan and the area they lived is good because he could be able to see everything materially and geographically, everything is there. According to my understanding about the history, uh, at that time, other places in today's world were not inhabitants for human beings. We do not see the history such that there are human beings, gathered and live together as today. But in that area in India at that time, there were human civilization that had many things. So for the Bodhisattva to come and see the world from his wisdom, uh, that would be the right place. That is the reason why all the Buddhas, all the Bodhisattvas, uh, reborn in that particular part of India and attain enlightenment. So the question is why the Buddhas are always born in India and why is India so special? If you look at the India today, you can see the both ends very clearly. Very rich, uh, very educated uh, class is there, while there were many poor uneducated people. So look at Buddha's life story from the Theravada and also Mahayana sources. You can see that both sources witnesses that uh, there were poor people, and caste system made the division more worse. So, for Bodhisattva was able to see the suffering of the human beings by these external happenings. It doesn't say that Bodhisattvas wished for both ends in the human existence. He never wants to see poor people. Therefore, he never wished to have poor people in the society. But it is over there in that time of the India. Therefore, for our Bodhisattva appeared in the world in the suitable time for him to get into enlightenment. So actually, we should have that kind of external, environment for a bodhisattva to get out of the luxurious life and practice, because he wants to see the human suffering. Though he is ready mentally, internally for his quest, he also wants to see the suffering out in the society. That is the main, trend the bodhisattvas got, to go out of the princely life. So this is the answer I can give you. There may be many interpretations, but this is what I can tell you with regard to the historical evidences and literature work about the Buddha appearing in the India. Thank you.
Thank you, Bante, for those excellent answers. I think that should satisfy the two questions the people who have asked for those questions. Now we move on back to Bante Kusala. Bante Kusala, your two questions. We are now about an hour into the 1 hour and 5 minutes. Could we take about another 10 minutes or so, Bante, to finish the other two questions?
Thank you. So, first of all, Bante Jinaranda really answered a question about why Buddha is born. These are tough questions, and he very well articulated it. And this question, are there beings in other galaxies? If yes, are they born there due to karma too? This is a question asked by Sister Nalyne Janis from Kuala Lumpur. So this is a similar question. This needs a little bit of thinking. This is also a yes or no question. Sort of, you can easily say yes or no, but you wouldn't believe any of that, because this is something you don't really. The science is yet to prove the existence of extraterrestrial beings. And it is us who try to connect karma to them. So let's look at this question in ways with different possibilities, different ways we can interpret it. So in Buddha's teachings, he did explain that there are loka dhatus, different world systems, and many hundreds, thousands of them. So that answers our first question. When we have world systems in that type, we do have beings potential beings who can be born there, who may have different intellectual capacities. They may be beyond our intellectual capacity, or they may be lower than our intellectual capacity. But intellectual capacity is something that evolves over the time. As you can see in human existence, our intelligence, artificial intelligence and normal human intelligence has grown, and it has developed to a certain level that our ancestors didn't even imagine in their time. And so Buddha does not necessarily encourage us to discuss or pursue that path. He said, Loka Vishaya, the subject of worlds, is unthinkable. And so is Karma Vishaya, the subject of karma. So he discourages us. Instead, he asks us to focus on the question that we need to focus on, which is to overcoming of suffering. So that's how the Buddha answered these questions. And of course, the Buddha did teach us that he has only taught things that he can grab onto a fist. Very little of teachings. But there are teachings that he had taught as much as the forest that he was in at the time. So he only collected a handful of leaves, and he said, only this much I have taught to you. I have taught things as big as this forest. I have not taught things as big as this forest, said the Buddha. So the world systems is part of the things that he discouraged in our pursuing. There have been monks who have traveled who have attempted with their psychic abilities, they have attempted to travel beyond this world system, and the Buddha said they would live 100 years and they will not find the beginning or the end of the world. They would die. So that's how big this vast universe is. Even now, they find many Earth-like world systems. They have found hundreds of them, but it's hard to reach to them because it takes light years. We don't have a system developed to travel that far, to hundreds and thousands of billions of light years, to connect with the other world systems and to connect with other world aliens. But we have UFO sightings. When we find UFO sightings, we question whether they came to steal our properties or to steal our human lives or destroy our human lives. There comes big ha-hoos in newspapers. So I wouldn't go into details, but if any being exists who are in the type of human experience, the karma is, definitely they are bound with karma. Their karma bandhu, their relatives should be karma. So the basic concept of karma, as taught in Nibbedika Sutra, is that Chetanahang bhikkhave kammang vadami chetayitva kammang karoti kayena vachaya manasa. So intention is taught as karma, and having had the intention, you commit the karma, you commit the action bodily, verbally, and mentally. So mental karma is included. So any being that exists as aliens, they could be bound with karma if they have a mind, if they have verbal and bodily behavior. I guess that answers the question. If you have further questions, please come back and raise your questions. Thank you very much. So this is the second question. Most Dhamma discourses teach us to practice meditation and be mindful. Is it correct to say that only through meditation we can get to see the true nature of things? I guess this is self-explanatory. Most Dhamma discourses, of course, teach us to practice meditation and be mindful. It's not only through meditation that we can see the true nature of things. So meditation is part of it, but eradication of suffering and also letting go of defilements could happen in other ways, like by seeing, just you see the reality, you investigate without sitting and meditating, without cultivating any meditation. You are able to also gain a little bit of wisdom by seeing the true nature of things, by analyzing. But I think meditation is part of it. Meditation is development, cultivating the mind, pursuing things that you otherwise cannot pursue as a, pursue as a, analyzer, as an ordinary human being. So in Vitaka Santana Sutta, there are different ways that you can eradicate defilements. Bhavana is just one of them. Dasanas. Dasana is seeing. You see the dangers. You see also Vinodana, abandoning places. If you are living in an area that is elephant infested, you abandon that area. So defilements related to that will not arise in your mind as you try to pursue the reality or as you try to meditate. So these are, also hunger, for example. You can avoid that by just having some food. And your fears to darkness can be removed by just lighting a bulb. So this is why it says that, but to see the wisdom, to cultivate the wisdom, it is necessary to practice meditation. It is necessary to practice the dhyanas, certainly. Without them, you won't be able to achieve the goals that are described in the Eightfold Path, culminating in the samadhis, the 4 jhanas and 4 rupa jhanas and arupa jhanas. So bhavana does play an important role. Cultivating meditation and mindfulness play an important role in, so right mindfulness play an important role in achieving the nibbanic goals. Otherwise, other than that, you can just have a general common sense of knowledge through seeing at defilements in different ways. And there can be beings who have seen these things, but they have not heard the Dhamma necessarily in the fullest scheme, in the fullest map. So they don't see the full path, but they see half. Like the existence of Pacceka Buddhas, secondary Buddhas, they are not necessarily the full Buddhas, the fully enlightened Buddhas who are able to teach the Four Truths, but they have seen it partially. And they are thus enlightened and they have ended their journey. So just like that, there can be partial understanding as a layperson who is practicing some mindfulness, but that may not be complete. So that's why we need to meditate. We need meditation, bhavana, to sit and find stillness and go beyond. Does that help? Please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhante. I think the answer is quite precise. I think it should be able to satisfy the person who asked the question. Of course, I have not given the name because it was an anonymous person who didn't want his name mentioned. For those of you who actually would like your questions answered, could you? I'm going to post the email address and the WhatsApp number for you to actually post your questions because we're running out of time. Before we end, we have one last question from the audience. I think there's only time for only one more question. I can ask either Bante Jinananda or Bante Kusala, both, or maybe both of you, to answer this question.
Okay, I think as Bhante Kusala talked for more than 15 minutes, I think let him rest a little bit and I answer the question first. I saw this question from the last session, I think last month. The question is from Dr. Sunil Karyakarwana. Idapacheta in the Patisambhada, please. Yeah, this needs a very lengthy answer to make a very complete explanation, but simple answer is that idapacheta patisambhada. It means that uh, this exists because of this. Imasming sati idang hoti. Imas upada idang upajati. Imasming asati idang hoti. Imas nirodha idang nirujjati. So when we comes to idapachya patisambhada, we have this theory that this exists because of this, or this come to be because of this. When this arises. When this is not, this is not going to be. And when this cease, and this ceases as well. So this theory could be applied into the 12 link paticcasamuppada. Idapacheta means between any two links, two factors of the 12 links, we can see the reality. Because of ignorance, there is, sankhara. And if we take sankhara and also vinyan, we can see the, social conditions. So because of sankhara, there is consciousness. Let's go to the way down to the link. Because of Vedana feeling, there is craving. And if you take any two factors of the 12 links formula, you can see how fit these two, and it is real. So this is called idapacheta. So if we come out of these formulas and analytical teaching out little bit and try to analyze this from our experience, we become angry because of some reason, and those reasons made us to be angry, made me to be angry. And if we do not have anger now, that is because of a reason as well. So idapacheta in the paticcasamuppada means the relationship between two factors immediately present. We have causes and also results, effect and causes that gives those effects. So idapacheta means that kind of understanding between the two things, basically the results as well as the factors that these results came to. I think simple answer is that from me. We'll see what Bhante Kusala says.
Thank you, Bante. I think that's all the time we have for this evening. Let me bring the Bante.
Good enough.
Yeah, Bante, thank you so much. Before we end, can we observe the Anumodana, Bante? Which monk would like to conduct the Anumodana? Bante Kusala? Maybe last time I think Bante Jinananda did this.
Sure. So may the suffering ones be suffering free, fear struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief. May all heavenly beings rejoice in our good karma and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Akasattaha cha bummattaha deva naga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva chiran rakhantu sasanang chiran rakhantu desanang chiran rakhantu tvang sada. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you, Bante. Also, on behalf of the Committee of Management as well as the monks of the Buddhist Mahavihara, let me take this opportunity to thank both our monks, Bante Janananda and Bante Kusala, for taking time off early in this morning for you in America and in Canada. to join us to participate in this Ask the Teachers Anything, Part 3. And if there are more questions that we get over the next couple of weeks, maybe we will do a Part 4 as well. Just for your information, we will have Bante Kusala and Bante Premaratana, who will conduct a new session next week, next Friday, and it's called Ask the Meditators Anything. So you can post your questions to me. I've just sent you the email address as well as the WhatsApp phone number for you to send your questions to. So next Friday is Ask the Meditators Anything. So those of you who are serious meditation practitioners who would like your questions answered, please do join us next Friday. So again, Vantesh, thank you so much, and also to our sponsors this evening, and to all of you who have been following us throughout this past 3 sessions on this Ask the Teachers Anything. Thank you so much. Have a good night and a pleasant evening. Sadhu.
Thank you for having
Bye.
us.
Thank you.